Sorce's father had an accounting guy, and he goes, how do you guys afford anything?
This period from 2017 to 2020, you're like 34 to 37 years old. What you're not saying is, hey, we had it all figured out in our 20s.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, 70% of the staff was laid off. It was suddenly, we were going backwards again.
We live in this imaginary world where we think everyone who is 26 years old and they got a couple $100,000 saved up.
Right.
But when you started figuring it out, because you had those behaviors in place, you began to really start making some changes and making some improvements. And as we sit here today, you guys were great. You shared with us your savings, like what you guys are actually doing now that you have some margin, and it's wild. $20 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome, right? Like, what's the secret? How'd you do it?
Just go to bed mad and wake up happy. I don't know.
That is the opposite of what
I know.
think that's the way you're supposed to do
Don't
it.
try to solve your problems when you're tired. It's not going to go well for you.
My favorite thing Sorcer's ever said is, it's not the more you give, the more you get. It's the more you give, the more there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah, you just
love
got to
that's,
put it
I
into
think,
the
a
bucket.
perfect
You're not waiting for
approach.
somebody else to give it to you.
I love it.
Just keep adding to the pot.
What are your careers?
Fleet management for
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
And I'm a distribution manager for fitness equipment.
You say fitness
Yes,
equipment.
sir. We'll talk afterwards.
Let's
I'll-
finish. Okay, let's go.
gosh.
Let's go.
Oh, no. See, when they told
out.
me.
Let's go.
Just so you know, they said, hey, one of you guys is going to be very excited about what one of them does for a living. And
that what
I
they said?
immediately thought,
like, all right, one of them's gonna count it,
I'm the
obviously.
quirky one that has all the Disney hobbies
sure.
and all the travel hobbies. Little I know it's going to be some meathead thing for Bo over here.
I have a degree in history in English, right? So, I mean, I don't,
Nice.
and I
That's
ended up
fitness
in fitness equipment.
I
Yeah.
love
This is,
Oh, yeah. I'm a fleet manager
is-
and I have an opera performance degree.
we were two music
Opera
kids.
performance?
Just don't ask me to sing. It's
Oh,
not gonna
man. She knows exactly where I was going with
be-
that.
And we're done.
That's awesome. Got married, started pursuing the careers. Then what?
We had our first daughter 2.5 years after marriage.
Okay.
He got a promotion when she was about 9 or 10 months old,
Yeah.
but it required us to move out of a state. We kind of made the decision that he's going to make up for my lost income. We're not going to be able to afford childcare. We would have no like extra
weren't making any
car.
money
Like
anyways.
everything was going to kind of even out. But we were going to do it for his job title, for the career growth.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved for that for about a year. Then we moved back to New York
Because she was pregnant
because
again.
I was pregnant. Yeah.
So y'all were in New York and y'all moved
to Columbus.
With a
Columbus.
baby.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We decided that Ohio was not necessarily the good long-term plan. The support system wasn't in place. And then I worked again after he was born for a little bit, like some part-time stuff. And then we joined a first-time home buyers club, which was a big thing.
What's the first time home buyers club?
It's like you had to take mortgage classes
Okay.
and you get a little bit more education on what you're getting into.
Love that.
And you have to sign up for a savings plan. You have to put in an exact amount every month for, 10 months? And then they'll cover the difference of that for your closing costs.
That's a New York State
It's
program.
a New
I
York State
believe, yeah.
program through like Catholic Charities or something.
But
But-
there was a requirement of PMI on a
Oh, yes.
time period as
Yeah.
opposed to a percentage.
percentage of equity.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
got to.
So it was
So
minimum
we
of 5
did-
year PMI.
Got it.
Yeah, so we
But-
kind of got a little bit tight on that.
But it's to
Yeah.
help people like who were in our situation,
Sure,
which
sure.
didn't have a lot of money.
Right, and that
maybe
helped
one
us get
income
our first
family with
house
a,
for
you know,
sure.
whatever.
And that was a big
Yeah.
step to
It
get
was
that
huge.
first
It was
house.
huge, yeah. And
So this is after second kid, back to New York.
it's actually after third kid.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I think it was right around the time
So
we were
what's
having
what's the
Lou.
age distance? What's
They're
the
close.
They're
so
ish 222.
Amelia will be 17 in a few weeks. Calder's
17.
14 and Lou is 13.
I want to hear more about the messy middle you've made it through. But you said, hey, I feel like we're going into the messiest part
Well, the
of
most
the messy
expensive
middle, right?
part of the messy middle, I think.
Because where you guys sit right now, you were kind enough to share a net worth statement with us. As you're sitting here right now, total net worth of about $537,000. And right now, total household income, it's variable based on your pay, but somewhere between like $250,000, $280,000 a year. But if I'm hearing you right, you haven't always
No.
earned that sort of income. This is sort of a relatively new thing. So have you guys always been like steady and consistent savers, or is this like a new thing that's been able to happen?
Sorce's father had an accounting guy, right? And in our first apartment, when we were first getting our first kid, and we're like, man, we feel like we can't afford anything. And he said, I'll look at your books, pro bono, we'll take a look at your books. And he goes, how do you guys afford anything? and we just kind of, I don't know.
We're just paying our bills first. I don't know. We're not doing anything. Frugal.
Stingy. Yeah, frugal is the word,
I
right?
like
we were,
that. Frugal, not stingy.
Yeah.
We were
Stingy.
trying to
As
be.
a negative, frugal
Yeah.
sounds like
I
you're
mean, we
just
made it work.
masters of, or
Well,
field generals of your army of
Some
dollars.
interesting points came out of it. One, we grew a lot of our own food when we had our house.
Okay.
A lot of vegetables.
Yeah, once
and
we had a
fruit.
yard, we were
all
farming
in it
that
with
sucker.
we
So
were
it was
farming.
really
and then we cook a lot.
Okay.
And I think that was a big thing. A lot of our peers don't seem to cook a
Go
lot.
out to eat a lot.
They go out to
and
eat
that
or
We
they
eat
order in, and we
every
cook
day.
a lot.
Yeah,
And that
there's-
keeps our grocery
yeah.
budget really predictable. well comparatively. As much as we're into things like, Dan likes some watches, or I like gardening, or we have nice cars, but they're not like sports cars. They're not, we try to be sensible about all the stuff. We try to like always have the long view. So I think that that's been informed by our past a little bit, our goals for the future about the kids' stability and our stability.
Y'all have done everything kind of in tandem. And the fact that like I see Dan's 401k, I see your 401k, I see the Roth IRAs, y'all kind of equally yoked on those who've started being funded at the same time. You're in your 40s. But you didn't start saving and investing in your 20s. I don't get the feeling.
No.
Not at
because
all.
it sounds like there was too much
was
life
very
going
hand-to-mouth.
on.
Not at all.
So when did you catch that, hey, we ought to start turning some of these lifestyle choices into money that shows up on the net worth statement?
2017?
So 2017 was when we first had the income to do it, because I had my first sort of manufacturer job where I was out in the field being a rep and covering a pretty big territory, which gave us a little bit of a bigger shovel than we had, right? And at the time, we still had student loan debt, we had credit cards, we had the everything that everybody has, right?
Right.
And we had 3 kids. We went from first, I had that job almost simultaneously. Sorsha got an actual career job working at a place called BOCES, which is a Board of Cooperative Education in New York. We didn't really know what to do. My mom was a banker, but she kind of fell into that.
She
and,
sort of pushed us though. She's like, you really need to be saving.
But
it was a
information
little
without
bit-
context didn't really
Yeah.
hit us in the way that it needed to, right? And so paying off the credit cards first and then going after the student loans. And then eventually we had a surplus and we said, oh, well, it would be great to have new windows, wouldn't it? in the
Oh my
house?
gosh,
And then-
our house needed work.
Yeah.
Because it was built in 1951. It had no updates. So we had the wood, glass, aluminum, stone, basement, leaching. Like it wasn't bad. It had good bones and it had
Just needed
a great
some work.
yard.
It
It,
needed
just
some
needed
love.
to be
Yeah.
brought
Yeah.
back
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
So
But so 2017 to 2020,
And we thought we were
to
staying.
answer your direct question, is
Right.
that's the first time we sort of had enough income and we had the habits of being so frugal with no income before that we were able to really dig out very, very in that 3-year period.
It wasn't like y'all changed who you were, meaning that you had a period of waste and then all of a sudden you caught on, hey, I need to be better. And you started saving and investing.
If only.
Y'all's lifestyle was just so expensive. Life was taking all of your.
Yeah.
Y'all were already naturally being super disciplined.
Because we had to be.
But then there was a moment where you started catching some traction with your career. That all that discipline, that yes, it wasn't yielding money that was margin that was turning up on the net worth statement. As soon as you caught traction with your job,
Right.
it was like
Exploded.
windfalls. It started coming in.
Yeah.
in
Because
large
you had the
chunks.
behaviors already established.
yeah, I think
And-
that might be true.
In that 3-year period, we paid off the student loans, we paid off the credit cards, and we paid off our cars. So we were left with just the mortgage, and
and
for
the mortgage was
$750
reasonable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
$750 a month, and you go, oh well, I'm in no rush. I think the
We
interest rate
planned
was
to
like
stay at that house.
we bought it
too.
in 2012,
We
so I
were
think the
thinking that was
interest
a
rates
good
were
one.
really low then too. So
It was.
but yeah, there was no rush to pay that off, and so
We only owed like 70 something on the house when we left.
the problem
It was
I
ridiculous.
had is that the problem we had, but Sorsha wasn't part of really. This is, hey, we want to start saving some money, and you go on the internet and you go, oh, how do you save money? And then there's Mr. Ramsey, and there's a this, and there's a that, and you go, oh, gold, huh? Oh, gold.
knew you guys would
I
love
was
that.
buying gold. I was buying bullion.
That was the way you
and that
thought.
was
Well, it was like
but-
a hobby too, so it kind
was-
of kept us into a different mindset.
Yeah, and looking back, that really helped us with is that it did create a couple steps in between. We're setting this money aside, and if we were to sell it, there's an actual couple physical steps we have to take.
It's hard to
get
go
at it.
take the bullion
Yeah.
to go
Exactly.
exchange.
can't
So a little
really
bit of extra friction
impulsively
there
grab it.
helped
Impulsively
us
spend
to
gold.
just not spend it.
Right.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, and the company I was working for, 70% of the staff was laid off, and
Wow.
because I was distributing to commercial gyms, right, and so they were all closed.
Yeah.
In the Northeast.
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
And then we had to move to Texas for work, and it was suddenly we were going backwards again.
Then we moved into a house that was probably, it went from the house we owed 70 something on to a house where we paid 340.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a
It's
huge
a big
jump.
change.
Yeah.
So we were like, well, we're starting over. Cool. Here we go again.
And
It was a little exhausting.
the bullion didn't help with that, right?
No.
I mean, it did because you could liquidate it,
Right,
and then
right.
it
Yeah.
would help pay for some stuff.
But there's
it-
no income coming off
No.
of it.
yeah,
It was just
exactly.
sitting there holding-
But I do love that it instilled discipline in saving.
and the research
And I really
involved,
like that. Yeah,
kind of spending time with thinking about finances in a different way and us talking about it.
right.
That also added to it. That was something we hadn't done previously.
This period from 2017 to 2020, you're like 34 to 37 years old. What you're not saying is, hey, we had it all figured out in our 20s.
No.
We live in this imaginary world where we think everyone who is 26 years old and they got a couple $100,000 saved up and they're saving. That was not the reality for you guys.
No.
You guys got married and had kids and got into the messy middle, and life was tight. And I think a lot of people will resonate with that. And it wasn't until your late 30s you started figuring this stuff out.
Right.
But when you started figuring it out, because you had those behaviors in place, you began to really start making some changes and making some improvements. And as we sit here today, you guys were great. You shared with us your savings, like what you guys are actually doing now that you have some margin, and it's wild. Right? Like when you look at this, you guys are both maxing out 401ks.
Makes me smile.
23.5,
Really
23.5. You guys are both maxing out IRAs, 7,000, 7,000, and you have another $18,000 a year going into your brokerage account. So you guys are saving like 30%, almost $80,000 a year.
Well, there's a lot to make up for. You know, I mean, there's
We do feel
a
like
lot
we need to
less
make up for
time
the
to
first
compound. And
Sure.
so
20
it's-
years.
Sure.
it's-
Well, tell me this: is this strategy gonna work?
I don't
Is it
know.
gonna
That's
play
why
out?
I'm here.
According to your lovely tools, yes. it
Before
will.
we start giving you answers on that,
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, because y'all are a unique perspective, because you are already naturally disciplined, so you're doing a lot of the right things in life. I'd love to know, as two parents sitting here, two people who've been married for 20 years, because I'm so worried about my financial mutants, is that they don't do life sometimes because they're just worried we have to do this now or we'll miss out. What are y'all's thoughts? Are
I
you
think
glad
that
you did life?
We've both had different moments where we have felt pressure that, we want to do more with the kids and we wanted to spend more money to put them in a sport or to go on a family
Summer
vacation or
trips or
summer
something,
trips.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, or whatever it was. But we don't feel guilty. We don't feel bad about anything that we've done, not just because of the future or whatever they might need our stability for or whatever that we're setting them up for, but because I don't really think we could have. I don't, we look back and you're like, there just wasn't anything. We went to the park all the time. The kids were outside. They were covered in paint as much as any other child and baked with us in the kitchen. And we read 50 million books a day. And we're a very close family. So I'm not really concerned that they weren't raised the way I wanted to raise them.
And none of that stuff cost a lot of money, but I bet
No.
it created amazing memories.
Library
Kids
events,
don't know
you
they're
know?
poor.
Right?
don't.
Oh my gosh.
Unless they
that's-
have a comparative thing.
I want that T-shirt because that was literally what I grew up.
Happiest times in my childhood
Yeah.
was when my dad was laid off. And
you got to hang out.
because he was around
Yeah.
all the time. And that's you saying it, y'all were at the parks. And I think sometimes us, especially if you're a financially minded person, you feel like, I don't need to do this until I can afford everything. When truthfully, it's exactly what we just said. Kids don't know they're poor. As
Yeah.
long as you're giving them the love and all the other things,
I think there were some
doesn't fit.
moments where some of the charm wasn't there. Like our kids are smart. So our son especially is like, well, can we afford that? I'm like,
we have a
okay,
special
yes,
needs
we
son,
can.
so-
We're
Yeah.
choosing,
We're
not
choosing
to
not
buy
to,
it.
yeah.
We're not close to the curb because he would get nervous sometimes. So we had to kind of redirect that.
I mean, the
but
other part of that too, though, is that if you're being intentional with your behavior and what is their time for guilt? I mean, it's just it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's
You know
'cause
you're
what
doing
else
the
can you
stuff
do?
that
You
you're
can't
supposed
change
to be
it.
doing, yeah.
We did what we could at the time with what we had.
If we just think about where you're at now with your investment portfolio, $250,000 at the age of 42, and if we can continue saving, $79,000, $80,000, a 30% savings rate moving forward, and we just assume based on your wealth multiplier, 7.8% rate of return for you guys, by the time you get to 49, you've got like a $1.2 million portfolio. By 55, it's 2.5. By 60, 4.1. By full retirement age 65, it's like a $6.5 million
Thank
portfolio.
I think I was using the tool wrong because that's a much bigger number than I
Now
saw.
recognize purchasing power is not going to be when
The
that's
same.
$6.5 million.
Right.
It's not the same as when we bring it back. So that's why we
Sure.
put the box on the right with the cash flow, because that does bring it back to present value
gotcha.
from a cash flow
Inflation,
perspective. So you can actually see what retirement would look like. It's still pretty impressive though.
Yeah, so the question we would ask is, okay, if you had a portfolio, assuming a 4% withdrawal rate that could generate for you about $130,000 in today's dollars, could you guys live off that? Could you guys live off
100%.
of 10, 11 grand?
You're like,
a month?
what would we do with all that money?
Come look at our pantry. It's all beans and rice and canned tomatoes. And
But those
stuff,
are easy
so-
things to cook. You said you cook all the time. It's just
Yeah.
beans and rice. That
Exactly.
stuff's easy.
Yeah.
I guess we can just fold up now in the episode and say this is it, right? We did it. But we want to show you, okay, based on the behavior that you have in place, this is the trajectory you're on. But you guys have some other stuff going on,
Plus
right?
a lot of life ahead of
There's
you
some
guys.
life that's about to start happening. Why don't you walk us through some of this life?
Amelia, the oldest, is in her senior year of high school.
Okay.
And
It is a special high
It's
school,
a special
though.
high school.
Yeah.
She's earning her associate's degree at the
That's
same
great.
time for free.
It's like a dual enrollment
It's
type
a
for
dual
thing.
free.
enrollment
So
for
it's
free.
not- you don't have
It's
to, like,
part of
pay.
the district.
Part
So
of the
it's
district.
we're in a pretty big district. There's 4 high schools.
Like 30,000
And-
kids. It's pretty significant.
and she's in a high school that is very. I think it's an open lottery, but it's a very specific smaller school because of this
You do
increased
apply to get
difficulty,
in.
essentially,
Yeah.
right? So they work in tandem with TCC, which is Tarrant County Community College, and through the high school they can take concurrent associate degree classes, which will then also count towards their high school diploma.
Right.
And
So some of the kids will get through and they will get maybe most of it, but they'll still have the ability to get credits, lots of credits. And then if you're really knuckle down, you can get the whole degree.
And actually graduate
And actually
high school
graduate.
with
Weirdly
an
about a
associate's
week.
That's what she's
degree.
doing.
You graduate like a week before you get your high school
awesome.
graduation. It's a little
That's
funny.
awesome.
Yeah.
And our son just got in. It's his freshman year, so we're pretty excited.
Is he like his sister? Does it seem like
They
he'll
have a
white
different
knuckle?
take on how to
He's a
handle
boy
school.
too. I mean, so he's a little.
He's not as organized, but he's a really smart kid. So we're
He's
pretty
incredibly
excited for
smart,
him.
and he'll do fantastically. And for him specifically, the smaller class size is going to be a real boon for him, I think. So
Yeah, they've got other cool opportunities there. They do Microsoft Suite certifications, OSHA certification. There's a lot of cool set you up for your skill set.
it's also set you up for your 4-year degree because there's feeder programs into.
Right.
So
Special
our oldest has
relationship
already
with UNT.
gotten into and accepted into UNT.
Okay.
And that's
you
where
know,
we're looking to send
But
her.
they also have a program with Texas A&M, Texas University, et cetera.
And so I'm
there's-
thinking through like the financial impact here. Associate's degree, first 2 years are covered. So
right, 30 grand maybe.
in terms of the next,
Cut out half of
that's
college.
half of college,
Yeah, awesome.
right?
Yeah,
Like, isn't
Hopefully,
that-
yeah, that is
and
the plan.
you know, we were so crushed by our student debt that
Yeah.
we're committed because we can't.
I'd like to say we, but I consolidated.
Well, she had a 1% interest rate. I had a 5% interest
I
rate.
got
so,
it. Those are not the same.
Some of us hit our
But
deadline.
we know what it's like to get out of college and have that hanging over you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's something
no, it
we
was
don't
pretty
want
bad.
for our kids. And so our trade-off here is that if you buckle down and you do this associates and you get it, then we will cover the next 2 years
Tuition.
of tuition for you to get your 4-year degree.
If they
So-
go to the local school.
because she can live at home.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
Y'all
talking
had
about
some
going
boundaries put on this
to...
in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
schools as well.
if Cornell calls, I'm not sure we're going back to New York for that.
What else do y'all have going on in life?
We think there might be a car in the future.
Okay.
Okay, car.
Our
If
oldest has a
getting to the college, you need a
licensing.
car. Especially if you're going to live at home, there's no bus from where we are for at least
Certainly,
a year.
there's a real need for convenience because just especially with her and she's now taking responsibility for driving to school and stuff. It will become a lot easier if we have that third car, right? But also, I think what you're getting at is that we are looking to move out of Texas again. You know, work is what brought us there. Texas has been very good to us, but we were commenting earlier to each other walking around. What is it about it that's really, there's push and pull to everything, and it's just the weather.
It's just too hot
we
for us.
grew
Too
up
hot.
in the snowiest part of the country, and it's not that
Not a
we
lot of
want the
snow down in Texas.
They get like 2 or 3 inches a year.
No, they get ice,
They
and
get
I
ice?
do like the way that Texas deals with it, which is we're just going
Stay
to
home.
shut everything down and wait for it to melt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can
Wait
certainly
it out.
appreciate that.
So okay, so you're gonna leave Texas. Where are you gonna go?
We have a target list. It's not locked in because we want to get all our kids through high school first, and so we still have 4 or 5 years before that's done. We're looking at the Pacific Northwest right now, just from a weather standpoint and from a lifestyle standpoint. That suits us best because we can get the cooler temperatures, but we don't get the snow.
So okay, so we've got some big plans, right? We got our kids who we want to be able to, they're gonna still got to pay for college, and then we want to think about this big move. What's been your strategy to think about how you're going to pay for 3 different half college costs?
That was where some of my questions lie because I was like, well, we have the cash technically to get Amelia through.
Yeah.
Will
And
we
Calder,
Yeah,
if
I was
he-
like, will we
yeah.
have the cash again 2.5 years later when Calder goes in? And then only a year after that for Luke because they're closer together.
So we have an active strategy we're doing, right? Which is that we have a sinking fund on top of our 6-month.
So if we looked at the
emergency
net worth
reserves.
statement, because I noticed y'all's cash was a little thick, because
Yep.
you have the emergency fund, so then that high yield savings account, is that what
Yeah.
y'all, when you say sinking fund, is that what you're talking about?
So technically, the emergency fund is high yield because we have that with Amex, and then we have a cash plus with Vanguard because that's where all of our individual investments are, and that pays just as much, if not a little bit more, than a high yield right now.
Okay.
So. That is the sinking fund.
Got
So
it.
that bigger number is the sinking fund. We're a little bit high on a 6-month because it's 43, 45 is our monthly.
So
but
give
then-
us the strategy, man. What's going in? Because obviously, if y'all built this thing up to almost $50,000, and you said we're aggressively putting what?
Well,
give
we
me
live
the lay of the land.
We live frugally, as we've established, and we try to put $2,500 in every month.
That's awesome.
Extrapolate that out over however many years. That hopefully should give us not just enough for our 2 years expansion of college for our kids, but then also enough for an extra down payment once we sell our house and move up, because the Pacific Northwest is a lot more expensive.
I love as you're thinking about the sinking fund, you recognize that these are like near-term goals. They're less than, 5 years out.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we want to do is if something's less than 5 years out, we really like liquid cash. We don't want to put that money at risk because we know we're going to need it.
Yeah.
And so thinking through the timeline for the kids, we thought, hey, let's model out what this sinking fund looks like practically. And you can see that right now today, we have about $48,000 in there. And if you're able to save that $2,500 a month, and we just assumed that you were going to earn about 3% in cash, high yield's a little bit higher than that, but average that.
Probably coming down.
Yeah.
We have,
I get those emails from Amex. every
right,
day.
they're letting you know. And so we kind of have, okay, child one, year one is going to happen next year. And then child one, year two will happen the following. Then we have a little bit of reprieve until we have child two, year one, and then child two, year two, plus child three, year one. And then we have child three, year two. And then by the time we get to about May of 2032, we're out. We've done it. The kids have made it through.
Right.
And even with funding all the college, if you can stick to that like $2,500 a month, and by the way, we assumed that the cost of college was going to be about $13,000. We inflated that for 3% every year going forward. Okay. We're estimating that your sinking fund, now this doesn't factor in like car and the garden and that kind of stuff, but if you were to continue on that trajectory, about $187,000 even left over in the sinking fund to help potentially with this move. The strategy you have in place, based on our analysis, would suggest will work to get all three of the kids through school.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and we hope to depreciate our current mortgage enough that it would continue to offset moving.
We're not paying extra. It's just,
just knocking it down.
Just knocking it down.
Yep.
Yeah, because that
Regular.
interest rate's okay.
Mm-hmm. How's the cost of housing in the area in Texas that you live in, the cost in the areas in the Pacific
It's
Northwest?
still a little more, I think, in the Pacific.
Where we live, it jumped incredibly. When we moved in 2020,
I think they did that for everywhere.
it did.
Yes.
It did. But it's
Not
stabilized,
alone.
right? So it stabilized about, on our net worth statement that we do for ourselves, I put, per your advice, what we
At
paid
cost.
for.
I love it.
Cost plus improvements.
Yeah. And
Garden
so,
improvements.
But, what is all the houses
Not
around us selling for? It's ish $100,000 more than we paid for. So when we look up in the Pacific Northwest where we want to be, it's probably $100,000 to $150,000 more currently than
We did some assumptions.
And so we know that, we're not moving right now. So
Right.
you're going to have two things that are kind of going to happen. The home you live in right now will likely appreciate, but so too will the house you'll be buying somewhere else. So we wanted to kind of think through what that looks like. So if we think about your current house, we know that right now it's worth about $450,000. And again, there are so many variables. We know there's a ton of things that can change. We just want to kind of give you an idea of directionally where you guys are headed. And if the goal was to do this move once the third child finishes school, so that way you're able to make it through the local school, 2032 is kind of what we're targeting.
Okay.
Your current home is worth $450 now. It'll be worth about $550. If we just assume very modest 3% growth rate over the next couple of years, but
Basically inflation.
so too will the house in the Pacific Northwest. And we know that right now, equivalent houses based on where we targeted for you guys to look are about $650,000. So if that grows at the rate of inflation, the house that you're going to have to buy there is going to be a little under $800,000 in 2032. Thoughts?
That's part of why we're
feedback?
thinking of downsizing a little,
Okay.
honestly.
Does that freak you out to see those numbers?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
does not freak me out at all.
Okay.
I know, we're at a different comfort level.
Well, why does it freak you out?
I have Dan's teased me about it before. I have emotional problems with money. Just
Is it
don't
debt
ever
or
want
money?
it's
Tell
debt,
us
it's
more,
debt.
because this is the place we talk
No,
about
I'm
emotional
very
problems with
uncomfortable
money.
with debt.
Okay.
Very uncomfortable with it. And I don't think that's necessarily bad, but where it gets bad is when I'm like, oh, should I buy that piece of cake? Can I, it's a small stuff. I just
When
feel
she's
weird
texting me
about
that
it.
she needs to buy school supplies, and I'm like, baby,
Just buy the school
supplies.
I have a lot of hang-ups. It doesn't bother me if I know if we spend the time and say, oh, okay, this works out in our actual budget in real time. But projecting out, I go, I bet I can beat that.
Are you concerned at all that I don't want to use the term baggage, that's probably too aggressive, but that anxiety that you bought into that, are you worried about with the next move as you're moving to a
No, I
new
think
area?
I'm seeing it a little better this time.
Okay.
And
So
plus, I want to go.
It's not the
Okay,
first
got
time
it.
anymore.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So you've gotten some,
Been there, done that.
experience and wisdom through the
Yeah.
whole process.
And there's so much stuff that could change in the
Oh,
next
yeah.
5-6 years.
Yep.
I mean, we're doing what we can now to get us there, and the numbers thankfully reinforce that. who knows what happens in the next 5 years?
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could happen between then and now, and just worrying about that is not in my nature.
And
so.
what's your current mortgage? Well, how much do you pay a month on your current mortgage?
It's just under $2,000.
Just under $2,000. Because one of the things we said is, okay, obviously extrapolating home prices is one thing, but
the
what
monthly-
really matters is
cash
the
flow.
monthly carry for you guys. And what we figured out was that if we assume that you're going to buy an $800,000 house, we've already established that your sinking fund was going to be about $187,000, and that's even above and beyond your $30,000 emergency fund, right? So you're going to have $187 you can use. We said if we just used $150 for that, and there's another $30 in there, maybe it's for a car, maybe it's for a garden, maybe it's for moving cost, whatever. If you had $150,000 that you had from the sinking fund, and you had home equity of another $325,000, you have a big down payment you get to put on this house. And if we did a mortgage, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, we just said, not knowing where rates would be, what would that monthly mortgage rate be if it was a 6% interest rate or a 5%? Again, we're sort of guessing at what it could be 5 to 7 years from now. But you see that even though you're moving into a more expensive house, the mortgage payment goes from a little under $2,000 to somewhere between like $2,500 to $2,700 a month, 5 to 7 years in the future.
Right.
That give you a whole lot of anxiety, or you feel like
No.
we
Not
could
really.
probably, right? Like
Because
so
we're not raising kids anymore.
it seems manageable. It seems feasible, right?
Yeah.
And it's because you've made the decisions and done the things to be in a position where, okay, even if my mortgage is going to be higher, money is nothing more than a tool that allows us to do the things we want to do. And one of the things we know we want to do is we want to live in a different part of the country. And we recognize there are costs with that and trade-offs with that. And one of the trade-offs is more expensive housing, but it sounds like that's something you guys are okay with and you guys are comfortable with.
Yeah.
And the way that my job pays, I have a salary and then I have a commission base. And the commission, we do get in more than just the $2,500 periodically, not all the time. And so those I tend to just throw into this. So the savings rate of $2,500 is probably on the
Conservative side?
conservative side.
great.
Wonderful. So it could actually even look potentially a little bit better than
Yes.
this.
We talk about it all the time on the show, the 3 ingredients to wealth. You guys are crushing the first 2 ingredients because you think about the fact of discipline, living on less than you make. You guys do that. You've done that even from the beginning. Yes, you weren't able to build a lot of margin initially because life was just absorbing it all. But as you made more money, you kept the focus on, hey, there's something bigger we want to do with our money. So you had the discipline. So then when your income finally caught traction, that margin, the difference between the two that created the money, y'all actually put it to work. Because so often in our comments section, people say, no, we have to assume this about everybody because nobody actually
one's gonna
saves
save
and
it.
invests. You guys are what happens to people who say, no, you know what? We're going to be very deliberate on how we spend our money. We're going to let our life reflect what we want. But then as we make more money, we're not going to lose our mind in this consumption society we live in and just start throwing money left and right out the door. We're going to kind of let it focus. So I love that we get to save at this rate, but we wanted to put some grace in the system because even good systems can have breaking points because college is expensive.
Yeah.
And y'all have even thrown up some things that we didn't know. This is news to us about the new car, the gardening.
Hopefully not new.
No,
Maybe
but,
used car.
But I want to make
New to
sure
you, Carl.
we
New to
want to
me,
put
yeah.
some flex in the system
Right.
just in case y'all go through this and maybe housing's a little bit more expensive than we have modeled here, or maybe college is a little bit more expensive because y'all move sooner or something happens.
Right.
So we wanted to kind of, because that 30% savings rate's pretty aggressive.
Well, and we know that one of the things that we always try to counsel people on who are thinking about changing locations and moving is we often think about housing. Okay, was housing more expensive or housing less expensive? But it's not just housing that affects cost of living.
Right. It's
gonna be
We
more.
want to look at like various cost of living in different parts of the country. And so we actually did an analysis comparing where you are in Texas relative to Vancouver, Washington, because I think that was one of the places you
Yeah.
kind of put on your short list. And what you can see is we've already analyzed housing is more expensive. It's like 11% more, but utilities are a little bit less expensive. Food costs a little bit more, both in terms of groceries and eating out. You guys are not going to eat out, so it's going to be the grocery cost. Healthcare is actually a lot more expensive in Vancouver, Washington than it is in Denton, Texas. Transportation is more expensive. Normal goods and services are more expensive, and income is actually down about 6% relatively. So if you kind of consolidate and conglomerate all of those, it's about 5% on average more expensive to live in Vancouver, Washington, Denton, Texas. So with all the variables that Brian mentioned, hey, okay, we might have a car and we might have more for college, and then we know that this is going to be like a more expensive place. What if the 30% savings rate is not something that we can sustain? Because we already showed you, if you didn't think a whole lot about college and you didn't have to replace a car and you didn't have to move to another part of the country, the plan looks great.
Sure.
But your plan that you want is not to stay where you are doing the things that you're doing. You have other plans that you want to do because you recognize money's just a tool. So we said, okay, how's this look if while you're living in Denton, Texas, you can maintain this savings rate? We've shown that we can pay for college. But what about when we make this change? What if we can't save at the same rate, either because of income changes or just because of life being more expensive? And what if we had to drop our savings rate down to 20%, starting when we move up to the Pacific Northwest? And what you can see is, yeah, it changes the numbers. They do decrease. Now at age 55, instead of having 2.5 million, you have 2.3 million. Instead of at age 60 having 4.1 million, you have 3.5 million. And then at full retirement, yeah, not being able to save that extra 10% made a substantial, significant change. Instead of being $6.5 million, you have like 5.7. But you can see, even with a portfolio of $5.7 million in the Pacific Northwest, with a mortgage somewhere between $2,500 to $2,700 a month, we could still count on this portfolio to generate about $116,000, almost $10,000 a month in income for you guys to be able to live off of. And so my question is that a worthwhile trade-off?
I think that you are two of the only people I've ever seen who could actually truly explain the difference in lifestyle between a $6.5 and a $5.7 million portfolio, because I can't see the difference in that.
Right, because it's hard. It's hard when you think about it.
Well, because part of the reason that we want to move there is because we want to just be able to walk around outside.
Yeah.
You know, like just want to take in the ferns and take in the
It's
air.
literally a
and
day-to-day experience.
It's a day-to-day experience. So for us, it's not like, oh, we want to, in our retirement, it'd be nice to travel a bit, you know, to like have some flexibility. But I don't think we're going to be like cruising around or backpacking Europe at this aggressive level that some folks we know have done.
I just love so much that you guys begin with the end in mind. I mean, as I'm sitting here hearing you talk, we talk all the times about the 5 levels of wealth, and everybody wants to get to financial independence where it's, I want to do what I want, when I want, how I want. But there is this like second level. There is this level above that where you actually know what you value and what brings you purpose. And that's what you guys are talking about. Like we could have more money and it'd be cool to have $6.5 million. But what we really want to be somewhere that we love, doing the things that we love. And money will allow us to get there, but money's not the thing that we're pursuing. We're pursuing the things that we actually value.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
When I looked at this chart, the things that got me excited was really the spread between 55 and 60. Because I know how you guys spend currently. Because remember, this is in present value terms. And yes, things are potentially going to be more expensive when you move to the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
But it's probably going to fall somewhere between the numbers we have between 55 and 60. And what I love is hearing you guys talk with such passion. There's a good chance y'all might decide somewhere in that 5-year window, this is enough. You know, and that, you know, and you can own your time that much sooner.
Sure.
And just live your life at that point. You don't have to work until you're 65.
I mean, you don't want to know what the secret of 20 years of marriage is?
What?
Have something to do.
Yeah.
So
Dan travels a bit for work, right?
I am
So we
not
get
interested in
automatic
retiring
time off.
right now. I can tell you that much. You know,
No.
I'm not looking for, you know, we hear the fine
The
and the
early,
fire and all that stuff.
yeah.
It's uninteresting to me, honestly. I think that, you know, retirement's the number one killer.
But you know what's the best type of work? When you get to choose to do the work.
Yeah.
I mean, there is
You're not
something
forced.
about owning your life completely and making the choice when you wake up in the morning is that I'm making the world a little bit better by going, and this gives me fulfillment to go to work.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of times in your life, if you really think about it, you're not working always because you want to. You're working because you have to pay the bills. You're working because of the obligation to the kids.
Sure.
It's a different mindset when you do it out of choice.
Any questions for us? Because I believe it or not, I actually have some homework. It seems like because you guys, we've given you a really like rosy picture here. We've shown what it can be, but there are some things you have to do to actually move in this direction.
I have
Any
two
questions
very,
you
very
have for
specific
us?
questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to kind of dial back to 2020, the first thing that got me, and you had asked earlier, Brian, you know, hey, so when did you actually start doing this? You know, the Roth and the 401k and all that. It was in 2020. I had sold all the bullion and I was just like, okay, we're just trying to stay out of debt. What do I got to do? And because we were moving backwards. And I actually found, J.L. Collins' Simple Path to Wealth.
Simple Path to Wealth, yep.
And I said, oh, this guy gets it, right? And so I said, I don't have a Roth. I don't have a this. I don't have a that. And Sorsha, I'm sure, remembers I had gathered every weird little piece of paper from every single account
like
that we'd ever
detective.
have. The question I have is that I had old 401ks, and so did Sorsha, retirement accounts that we put into that, because I was looking at, wow, what's the percentage we're paying over there versus, Vanguard's only 0.04% or whatever it was. And so, but now that our income is at a point where I'm worried, I'm not investing actively in the Roth right now because I'm worried at the end of the year we're going to exceed
too
what
much
we can
money.
do.
Limit,
So I really would love to hear more explicitly what is the actual, maybe that's part of the homework, what is the actual process for getting back into Roth conversion compliance?
Sure,
Because
sure.
I know that we're not right now.
Right.
Well, let's look at your net worth first, because that's a super helpful place to start. So you already mentioned you have these traditional IRAs that exist, and you have one that has about 22,000, and Source yours has about 20,000. So based on your current account structure, you couldn't do backdoor Roths. If you were to do a non-deductible traditional IRA contribution and then try to convert that, it would be taxable because of the pro rata rule. The IRS would say, okay, what's your after-tax contribution relative to all of your IRA balances?
Right.
So the only way you get around that is you have to make your IRA balances go down to zero. So if we look at your current account structure, you have Roths and you have 401ks and you have rollovers. If you wanted to be backdoor Roth compliant, one of the things that you would be able to do is you could consolidate your accounts to where your Roths would stay the exact same, but you would want to think about, Sorsha, your rollover IRA that you have, assuming that your 401k is good and low cost and you like the investment
Fidelity.
options.
It
Oh,
Yeah,
Fidelity is
that's great.
wonderful.
Yeah.
You could actually roll that rollover IRA into your 401k, thereby doing away with that rollover. And Dan, again, you could do the exact same thing, assuming that you have a really good 401k that's low cost. That
We
you
won't
want.
mention the company for that one.
Okay. You could actually consolidate that into your 401k as well. Now, one of the things I want to make sure that you think through is, I don't know where these traditional rollover came from, but a lot of times we'll see people blindly just roll them over all the way, not remembering, I made this contribution that's traditional a number of years ago, but I didn't get to take a deduction. I've actually got some after-tax basis in there. You just want to make sure before you roll it into the 401ks, are those dollars all actually in fact pre-tax?
I can 99% guarantee they all came from a 401k rollover.
Perfect. If that's the case, then you can roll them in. Once you get this new account structure where all you have are 401ks and Roths, now you're set up that every single year you can do a $7,000 non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA, and you can convert that traditional IRA contribution into a Roth, thereby completing the backdoor Roth conversion.
That's the
right
step I
within
couldn't see.
Vanguard's own structure or
Yeah.
Fidelity or whomever.
That's right. Whatever custodian you're using.
And I'm pretty sure most 401ks now have auto invest functions but just I always tell people, when you bring assets in, it's usually a two-part transaction, meaning that when the money hits the account, check that, make sure you got all the money you're supposed to. And then the second thing is, the part two is make sure it gets invested.
Yeah.
Because one of my biggest, I hate when we do react episodes to people who do the right thing by getting money into these retirement accounts, but they just let it sit in cash. So that's one question.
That's one question.
I give us a check box on that
Okay,
one.
Yeah.
What's,
great.
what's question number two?
Question number two is, I feel very uneducated with insurance needs. What is the minimum that I need to have here that makes sense for what our situation is?
One of the things that we've kind of shown you guys here is that you're on a great trajectory, but you're not there yet. I mean,
Right.
right now, when you look at your investment portfolio, you got about $250,000. If you were to get hit by a bus when you walk out of the studio, that's likely not going to be enough to provide for Sorsha and the kids, and same thing reciprocally, right? So we would argue that there is an insurable need on each of your lives. And so then the question becomes, how much? Well, there's a really easy rule of thumb. You can do 10 times your income, and a lot of people like to start there, but we think it can go even a step further. Since you've given us all the information, we understand, okay, based on your age and based on when we think you're going to retire, we know how much your income needs to be saved between now and retirement. And we know that we have this college funding goal, and we know that we have this mortgage goal. So we can actually add all of those numbers together and sort of reverse engineer into a net present value calculation of what is your true insurable need. And we actually did this for each of you. So Dan, for you, you can see that right now, if we assume a $215,000 income, we assume a retirement age of age 65, we know your mortgage is right at about $240,000. We know your portfolio is at about $250,000. If we just assumed a 6% rate of return on your investments and a 3% inflation rate, so relatively conservative assumptions.
On purpose, you want to be conservative.
We reverse engineer this back, we could come up with, today, we would argue that the life insurance need that you would have to be able to satisfy those future goals would be about $2.3 million, right? Okay. It's funny. It does come out to roughly 10 times income. It's neat how that works out. Yeah. But about $2.3 million. And you may be saying, oh, it's a scam. I don't want to pay for this. What's great is you guys are 42, which is still young. Like that is not, you guys are not aged yet. And so we actually went and ran some quotes for you. A $2 million 20-year term policy would only cost about $170 a month. Or if you only wanted $1 million policy for 20 years, you could do it for about $85 a month. Right. So this is like very, very affordable insurance. It does protect you in the event that you do get hit by that bus.
This is term.
This is term insurance, only term. Like only because
that's what I've had forever.
Yeah. All you really need to have in place is enough to get you to financial independence. It's not like you need this insurance in your 70s and 80s because you guys are going to save in such a way by 65, you're financially independent. So if you have life insurance through work, you would obviously decrease this. If you had current policies, you would decrease it. But the total amount of insurance we think you need would probably be about $2.3 million.
Okay. And we did use like a preferred policy, but it's not preferred plus, meaning that you might be the specimen that's hiking every year. This might even be cheaper.
I think they call that the bow insurance.
Yeah, that's the bow insurance for sure. Yeah. But we wanted to put something in here so that you could at least, everybody who's watching this content be like, man, I've heard all these bad things about insurance, but it sounds like term life insurance, which would just, you're buying the insurance only. There's no investment component or anything else, the bells and whistles that people are putting out there. It's much more digestible, and it probably will feel like you're paying an HOA fee, but an HOA fee that
doesn't
will
feel
actually,
good either, honestly.
But an HOA fee that will at least protect your family. So
Right.
it'll have some dividends on it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's for you, Dan Source. We did the exact same thing for you. Same sort of assumptions, same sort of timeline, $65,000 income assumption, same retirement age, mortgage, investments, rate of return, inflation, all the same. And we would argue that you have an insurable need of about $625,000. Again, we went and priced this a $750,000, just nice like round number. 15-year policy for you would cost about $45 a month, or a $500,000 15-year policy would cost about $30
I'm a cheap date.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
It's amazing. The ladies are always a good bit cheaper than us.
We do live
guys.
longer.
You do. That's exactly right.
The actuaries quickly show you why it's better to buy insurance as a lady.
And so we would argue that you guys certainly have an insurable need on each of your lives. You will need to arrive at the conclusion. Do we want 20-year policies? Do we want 15-year policies? Do we want 10-year policies? Do we want to go 2 million, 750? Like there's a push and pull there based on your comfort level. But you ought to have something in place because it is incredibly affordable and it's not a difficult thing to do. And now's a great time to do it as you have basically this 20-year window while you're building into financial independence. All right, you ready for your homework?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Research life insurance. We want you to look into life insurance because we do believe that you have an insurable need for each one of you. Number two, given your income is increasing and you have a desire to build Roth assets and continue to build Roth assets, you should look at the backdoor Roth conversion consolidation. You'd have to get those IRAs into the 401k so you consolidate. Number three, keep doing the things that you're doing. Obviously, we showed you this fantastic picture of where the future looks like $6 million, which is amazing. But that's not where you guys are today. You guys today are at $250,000. So there's the hike from where you are today to the top of the mountain is still a pretty severe hike. So you got to make sure you keep doing the work. You're doing a great job with your kids. Encourage them to continue doing the things that they're doing, because if they really do graduate with an associate's degree, all three of them, it cuts the cost of college in half, and it's going to set them up for the remainder of their life. And then the last one I put was keep dreaming. Right now, you guys have this vision of where you want to be. I would encourage you to keep dreaming about the things you want to be doing. Okay, what does Chapter 2.0 look like? Maybe retirement is not something that you guys ultimately do, but maybe transitioning to the next endeavor is the thing that you guys do in your 50s, in your 60s. And based on the trajectory you're on, you're going to have the ability to write that ticket.
Bo, if somebody else wanted to come on Making a Millionaire, where do they go?
Yeah, if you want to be a guest on Making a Millionaire, you can go to moneyguy.com/apply. Or if you want to check out any of our free tools and resources, you can go to moneyguy.com/resources.
This has been an absolute blast. Thank y'all for coming on. Guys, I'm your host, Brian Preston, joined by Mr. Bo Hansen. Thank you so much, Money Guy team. Out.
Making a Millionaire is hosted by Brian Preston and Bo Hansen. Brian and Bo are partners at Abound Wealth Management. Abound Wealth Management is a registered investment advisory firm regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission in accordance and compliance with the securities laws and regulations. Abound Wealth Management does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through Making a Millionaire. The information provided is for informational purposes only, may not be suitable for all investors, and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. All investments involve a degree of risk, including the risk of loss. The guests featured on Making a Millionaire are not clients of Abound Wealth Management at the time of recording. Their participation should not be considered a testimonial or endorsement of Abound Wealth Management.